President,
Senator from Wisconsin.
I ask that the quorum call be initiated.
Without objection.
So, Madam President, 2 weeks ago I came to the floor in support of a bill that we were going to vote on, a motion to proceed, called the Shutdown Fairness Act. Pretty simple bill. The name pretty well describes exactly what it is. It's trying to be fair during these dysfunctional shutdowns, that any of the federal workers who are forced to work because they're in our military, they're in federal law enforcement, they're TSA or they're air traffic controllers, that they're keeping this nation and Americans safe. If we're going to force them to work, at a minimum, let's make sure we pay them and pay them on time. Now, I came down in as nonpartisan manner as I possibly could and literally begged the other side, just join us. Vote to proceed to the bill. That they had some objections to it, things that I was willing to address. For example, my bill only addressed workers that were forced to work. They wanted to include furloughed workers. I said on the floor, listen, I'm happy to add that as an amendment. I think, working with my conference, I can get the conference to support it as well. It wasn't quite that easy, but in the end, we overcame objections within our conference to adding furloughed workers. So we've completely amended the bill now. We've added furloughed workers. In the meantime, surprising to me, we had federal employee worker unions reach out to us, asking what they could do to help pass this bill. They are sick and tired of being used as pawns in this political dysfunction here. They're tired of it. One of the things that definitely appealed to them once I added furloughed workers was my bill makes it permanent. My bill says we will never use you again as a pawn in the political gamesmanship that's being played out right now. So I'm happy to report the Shutdown Fairness Act, as I've now amended it, adding furloughed workers, is supported by the American Federation of Government Employees, the Federal Managers Association, Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, National Air Traffic Controllers Association. We tragically had a plane go down early in the week. I'm not saying it's because of air traffic control, but we understand the danger. We have to understand the risks we are taking in not paying air traffic controllers so we can fully man our air towers and keep our airspace safe. The International Association of Firefighters supports my bill. The Association of Flight Attendants does. So again, one of the main reasons they support my bills, in addition to the fact that we added furloughed workers, is my bill makes this permanent. So, Madam President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of calendar number 191, Senate Bill 3012. I further ask that the Johnson substitute amendment at the desk be considered and agreed to, the bill as amended, be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Madam President.
Senator from Michigan.
Madam President, reserving the right to object. I just want to first start off and say that I just deeply appreciate that Senator Johnson has updated his proposal to pay all federal employees during the shutdown to include furloughed workers as well as DC employees. So I appreciate all those efforts. I've worked on a number of bills with the senator from Wisconsin. We'd like to continue to work on this bill as well as we go forward. But unfortunately, I just still have some concerns about the way that the bill has been drafted so far. Those are things that I think we can work out and want to work out. We've been going back and forth with our staff. I'm concerned that Senator Johnson's bill still leaves too much discretion up to President Trump. There's too much wiggle room for the administration to basically pick and choose which federal employees are paid and when. And I'm also deeply concerned that this would allow the administration to actually transfer this money to other purposes that are unintended by Congress, which unfortunately we have seen happen repeatedly in this administration. So I believe there are ways that we can put in guardrails. There's a way we can get to that, but we're just not there yet. And I would certainly ask the indulgence of my colleague from Wisconsin to look. We've sent another proposal over to his staff. We can work on this quickly and try to figure out how we get there. But in the meantime, I've also introduced a bill that would pay federal employees just for this shutdown without the additional powers to the administration. It's just basically a clean bill. No additional language, no complications, no wondering what does this actually mean. It's very straightforward. My Military and Federal Employees Protection Act would ensure that all federal employees receive the pay that they certainly deserve, allowing them to pay their bills on time this month. I've asked Senator Johnson to support my very simple proposal, which I think accomplishes most everything he wants to do, with the exceptions of things about giving the administration more power. I think we can agree on that, whether we can pay our troops and our federal employees, period. That would be my goal. So I will continue to work to this end, to work to end this government shutdown and address the health care crisis. But in the meantime, we must protect our hardworking federal employees. My bill is very straightforward. We could agree to that right now, and it's done. Federal employees are going to get paid without all the other extraneous language that's in the senator's bill. Therefore, I ask that the senator modify his request so that instead the Appropriations Committee be discharged from further consideration S3043, and that the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration, that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table.
Does the senator from Wisconsin so modify your request? His request?
Reserving the right to object, Madam President. It's important the American public understands what's going on here. Again, I came down here 2 weeks ago. I modified my bill quite dramatically. Entered into talks immediately with the senator from Delaware and the senator from Michigan. Within those talks, again, 2 weeks ago, they were accusing my bill of giving the president all this additional authority. In discussions staff to staff, they admitted there is no additional authority I'm giving to the president in this bill whatsoever. This bill is completely silent on president's authority in terms of who he can furlough. As a matter of fact, everybody's included. Every employee is now included. There's no discretion whatsoever in terms of who's furloughed, who gets brought back to work, who gets paid. They all get paid. The senator from Michigan is well aware of this. Those discussions, I'd say, petered out within a few days. I don't know, they were emboldened. They're just digging their heels in. They're going to continue this shutdown. Don't feel that they're getting blamed for it. Didn't have much pressure on it. Now, here 2 weeks later, they want to redline the bill. Well, in that 2 weeks, we've had our bill examined exhaustively by our leadership, by OMB, by the unions. Our bill is in a really good place right now. We've tried to think of everything. No federal employee would be excluded from this. The senator from Michigan says my bill allows the president to pick and choose. That's total hogwash. Again, every federal employee, including contractors, gets paid. There's no picking and choosing. That is completely false. Money transfers, what is he talking about? More power? There's no power. It is completely silent in terms of presidential authority. These are false arguments This is further evidence of the gamesmanship the Democrats are playing with people's lives. They are the party of big government. They've in effect taken a family member hostage. I see our leader on the floor here. He's been doing everything he possibly can to help Democrats release their own hostage. Open up the government. Once you do that, we're more than happy to talk to you about how to repair the damage done by Obamacare and transition to a system that works. But they're playing politics. They're using federal employees, and quite honestly, the American public now, whose flights are being delayed, whose skies are less safe. They're using public employees and the American public as pawns in this grotesque display of partisanship. My bill is very simple. It's backed by the public sector unions who generally don't support things I'm putting forward. And if the senator insists on objecting to this, preventing these people, these workers, these people who keep us safe from getting paid in this round, my guess is we'll take a vote on this to proceed to the bill. The problem with that is it's going to take much more time. If we could pass this by unanimous consent right now, we can send it over the House. The Speaker's already indicated if we pass the Shutdown Fairness Act, he'll bring his people back. They're on a 48-hour call. We could have this passed by Monday. Our skies would be safer again. Federal employees would be treated fairly. They would be paid. And they will never, ever be used as pawns in this kind of partisan, this grotesque partisan gamesmanship. So, Madam President, I will not modify my request.
Wisconsin yield for
Absolutely.
Madam President, I'm trying to understand what's going on here, and perhaps the senator from Michigan can clarify. So every public sector employees union is supporting the senator from Wisconsin's bill, but you're objecting because you think it grants too much power to the president. Now, if that's, I don't know how every public sector employees union would be in support of this bill. And my understanding is the modification proposed by the senator from Michigan would essentially cover back pay, but wouldn't do anything to address going forward. So in other words, we're going to keep federal employees hostage. So they might get paid for back pay, but starting tomorrow, they're not going to get paid again. And that means that in the future, they continue to be pawns. They continue to get held hostage. This is a straightforward approach that addresses that issue. And that everybody in this chamber who isn't getting paid, I can't believe people come down here and look these people in the eye when he's saying right here, we will pay them not only for today, but for tomorrow and for the entire year, and we won't allow them to be held hostage and be pawns in a political game in the future. And my understanding is the senator from Michigan, on behalf, I suppose, of other Democrats, is objecting to that. Please, please help me understand. This is a straightforward proposal which addresses the concern that millions of Americans have who are headed to food banks and can't pay their rent. And you're coming down here and saying you're going to object because you just want to pay them for yesterday, not for tomorrow or the next day after that. It's about leverage, isn't it? Isn't that what y'all been saying? It's about leverage? This isn't leverage. This is the lives of the American people. Senator of Wisconsin has put forward a straightforward proposal to pay people Federal employees, today, tomorrow, and in the future. And what you're essentially saying is, well, I'm fine with paying them for yesterday, but we're not going to pay them for tomorrow or for the day after that, for the future. And we don't seem to care that there are men and women in uniform who are frequenting food banks, who are not making rent payments, or trying to borrow to get by because it's leverage. So, Mr. President, Madam President, I should say, I would hope, we're going to vote on this, so a senator from Michigan can object to the unanimous consent request the senator from Wisconsin made. But everybody in this chamber is going to be put on the record on whether or not they want to pay federal employees. Not yesterday, but today and tomorrow and into the future. I am tired of the political games. I really am. And so feel free to object to something that I don't know how anybody in their right mind can walk into this chamber, look these people in the eye, and say, we're not going to pay you. So we're going to vote on it. You object to it right now, but everybody in this chamber is going to vote on whether or not they want to pay federal employees, something that every single public employees union has said they support. I yield back to the Senator from Wisconsin.
Reclaiming my time for briefly to reemphasize the fact, if we can pass this now, and again, Senator from Michigan, I'm literally begging you, do not object. Do not object. It's still going to take a couple days to actually pass this. If we have to go the route of motion to proceed, getting on a bill, I mean, that's going to take quite some time. Our skies can't remain at this level right now. We can't continue these airport delays. We can't continue to use public sector employees and the American public in general as pawns in this partisan gamesmanship. So literally, I think you know me. You know I'm saying this in good faith. Please do not object. Let this bill pass so the House can come back and sign this into law, and these good people who are forced into work or who have been furloughed can get the pay they deserve. Again, today, tomorrow, and in the future, assured they will never, ever be used like pawns in these partisanship games. But again, I'll underscore, I will not modify my request.
Madam President.
Objection is heard to the modification.
I have
Senator,
not objected yet.
is there an objection to the original request?
Thank you, Madam President. Senator from Wisconsin, I know your intent. You and I have worked on a lot of issues. That's not in question here. We do have problems with some of the language in this bill just to make sure that we have guardrails. I want to pay federal employees. That's why I have the bill that's on the floor right now that I'm trying to move. It will pay federal employees. It'll pay contractors as well. You're not doing that, I understand. Everybody who is being shorted right now should be paid, and that's what my legislation does. So we could do that. You know, I'm happy if you want to take my legislation and put your name on it, I'll support it, and we'll pass it right now and send it there, and people are going to get paid. So if you really want to do that, we could do that today. Would you want me to just to put your name on this bill and then we'll pass it? That would be fine to do that. But folks are, excuse me, I haven't reclaimed. So we can make that happen. And if you put it on the floor later, we'll go through the process. I would hope that you and I, during that process, could work on language to perhaps address some of the concerns that I have. It's not that we pay people. That's not my concern. I wouldn't be offering this legislation here today if I was concerned about that. I want them paid. Labor unions support my bill too. No surprise, they're getting paid. And that's why I've introduced it. This is not a political game. I hope we get the shutdown opened. I hope we're able to find common ground to say that we want to lower the cost of Americans of affordable health care, that we don't want to see their premiums go up and people lose insurance. I hope we can do that. It's not a game. I don't see this as leverage. Now, a president who refuses to release SNAP funds to feed people, now that is what is irresponsible and irreprehensible leverage. Money's available to feed people right now, and this president is saying, no, The court has ordered him to put that money into food, and he says, I'm going to appeal it. That is absolutely despicable that the President of the United States wants to starve children in order to get his way. We got to move beyond that. We got to find common ground. I hope we can find common ground in this bill. My bill is just plain, simple, clean, no games, no other language. We know we have to have guardrails when we have a lawless president. We better put some guardrails in. He walks over Congress all the time. My colleagues on the Republican side, just let him walk over Congress all the time. I don't know why you ran for office if you just want to be run over by a president. We're a co-equal branch of government. We're here to represent the people of our states. So let's work together, be thoughtful about this, understand that if Congress puts this law forward, it actually goes the way we want, and we don't have a president that basically thumbs their nose at members of the Senate and the House and do what he wants, and he knows the Republicans will say, oh, well, that's fine. We're just here to rubber stamp. That's what we're here for. So let's hope we can work together to get this right, pay employees. They should be. They have a right to that. And I think we can do this if we can get together and get beyond the rhetoric and games we're here and the leader that I heard. It's also on this side as well. So let's work together. Let's open up this government. Let's end this shutdown. Let's make sure people have affordable health care in this country. Let's make sure our employees get paid. Let's do all of that this weekend. I'm on board for all that. Hopefully we can get it done.
Is there objection to the original request?
Madam President.
Objection is heard. Senator from Wisconsin.
So again, let me correct, I hate to say falsehoods, just presented here in the chamber. My bill is completely silent in terms of presidential authority. The senator from Michigan, I know they wanted to put language in there to restrict presidential authority, but the fact of the matter is, and I made him well aware of this, that's a bill that would never be signed into law. So if you're serious about actually paying the workers, you'll recognize the fact, admit that my bill is completely silent. It does not add, it does not detract from presidential authority. There's nothing in the bill that does that. Secondly, we tried to come accommodations with a number of senators from the other side for a couple of weeks. Pretty much fell on deaf ears. So again, I know it is unfortunate that he objected right now. And if we proceed and vote and actually get on the bill, and I hope at least we do that, that will take quite some time. So Sings has already objected. What I am happy to do, not happy, I'm very disappointed I'm going to have to do this, but we'll look at their language. If it's acceptable, and again, if he is doing anything with presidential authority, adding or detracting, that won't be signed into law. It's a fruitless exercise. But if we can accept their language, we'll look at it, and then maybe we can come back down here, do another unanimous consent request, and pass this today. That is what I hope we can do. So we'll look at the language. It's very unfortunate we didn't pass it right now, but maybe later this afternoon we can do so. With that, I yield the floor.